We're on a mission to talk to the 100 leading marketing minds in the automotive space. I'm Andrew Street, owner of dealer OMG.
Matthew Davis here, Chief Marketing Officer at TradePending. Why are we doing this? Well, we like automotive, we like marketers, and we like retail automotive marketers. Our goal here is to give you the insights into what these leading marketers are thinking, planning, and doing.
Enjoy the show. Who are you? Where do you work? And most importantly, what tasks all fall under your umbrella?
So I am Tyler Rauch, Marketing Director at Superior Automotive Group. We are headquartered here in Fayetteville, Arkansas, but we've got dealerships in Arkansas and as recently as last month, Tennessee, Texas, and Florida. We've also got 7 Kubota tractor stores in Oklahoma and Arkansas, Missouri, and Texas.
How many rooftops you working with there total? If you had to add
16 now, 16 automotive rooftops and 7 Kubota. And then, in the last 6 months, we've added Kubota rooftop in Dallas, and then we added a Mercedes-Benz store in Memphis. So we've had a fun couple of months here, which has been a tremendous learning opportunity for me. I've always been on the end of inheriting things after they've happened, but getting to see some acquisitions take place. One scenario where we kept the name and the another scenario where we changed the name were both also very different for me in terms of how we treat everything from the marketing transition process to budgeting and all the fun growing pains that come with that. My background, I mentioned it briefly. Started in 2008 as an intern at Ford Motor Company, and that led to a job when I graduated in 2009. I started with Ford in corporate finance. I was at Chicago Assembly Plant, and then I went to Ford Credit, their headquarters in Dearborn. After a number of years with Ford, I made the switch to Chrysler, which when you live in Michigan, it's just a different direction on the interstate. So I made my way north, ended up at the Chrysler headquarters where I worked in international marketing and sales. And I was fortunate because, the gentleman who was running international was the individual who ended up taking over the company when Sergio Marchionne had passed. So it was a small piece of the pie in the grand scheme of things, but very short visibility, which was nice for me. Got a lot of good growth opportunities. And then from there, I went into the field and I called on stores for a couple of years, and I had multiple districts across the country. So we had floated around Michigan, and then we wound up in New Jersey and then North Carolina and now in Arkansas. So I think we've moved about 7 times as a family just with the industry. Hopefully this is where we stay. Being on the retail side of the house was an important piece for me. It was a bucket list opportunity. And, when I did leave the manufacturer, I went into consulting for about 4 years, and I loved working with all the different brands. And I thought my skill set lent itself well to what the dealers needed and what they were facing. And that last 4 years before I came to Superior was just the tools and the belt that I needed to do this job effectively. And they were looking for someone that could do this and was willing to relocate and wanted to be in this chair. And quite literally, when I said, hey, I respect the 37 years that you guys had before I got here, I want to follow along with the blueprint that you guys have put forth. And they said, bring an eraser because we don't want the same blueprint. We want things.
Oh, you gotta love that.
Yeah, I know. I was like, that's it. Hook, line, and sinker. When I heard bring an eraser, I knew I was the right fit. So,
so when you were working at the OEMs and you changed, so OEM is the major brands, Ford, FCA, now Stellantis. Did you have to get a different car every time you changed brands?
Yeah. At the plant in Chicago, thankfully I had a Ford. But if you didn't have a Ford, they made you park in a lot that would take you almost a mile to get to the office. Plants are huge and they're old, and there's a lot of big lots and space, and you have to walk through the plant. It gets to be very, very time consuming to get to the office. So if you didn't drive a Ford, you had to park in the back, and that was a hike. And then at Chrysler, thankfully, once I got into the field, they gave us cars. So I was an early adopter of the Chrysler 200 and the Chrysler Pacifica. But it was fun. I enjoyed getting to drive all those models, and I think it's valuable. I know it seems like just like a cheesy perk, but I wouldn't have driven nearly the volume of vehicles that I have if I hadn't spent that time.
It sounds like super formative experiences, working with the OEMs, multiple two different manufacturers, doing some consultancy work. It sounds like you were doing like marketing with dealers.
Yep. And that was where I think I met a lot of the industry partners that I've come to love over the years, my job was to go through and working with dealers on some of the low-hanging fruit that maybe they weren't equipped to handle. So it might seem silly, but if you walked into the average auto group and said, how much do you spend a month in advertising? And could you prove it to me with invoices? I think a lot of them would struggle. I don't know that it's mapped out, so it's simple enough to know that you're spending this much on your website, this much on SEO or SEM, and what part of this is fees, and what is the fee structure? Is it a flat fee? Is it a variable? Is it a percentage that? Is it a co-op? Is it OEM approved? Is it not OEM approved? I don't think most people could tell you that information off the top of their head or have it anywhere, or it's parsed together with multiple folks. The controller knows some of it. The internet manager knows some of it. And that exercise was one of the first things I would do when I'd walk into a dealership. And immediately we found opportunities to not only cut costs and boost efficiency, but create some level of organization and communication that I think serves them well. So the average client that I had was probably overconfident in what they were doing, but I think they probably all kind of looked back and said, gosh, I didn't realize I had so many issues. And it wasn't even me telling them that they had the keywords were bad. Like I wasn't trying to go after necessarily the nuts and bolts. I was looking at what I thought were basics. Like, what are you spending? Where's it going? Do you talk to the vendor? When's the last time they were here? Did they provide you with information, or did they keep asking you what you want? But you've never been to a marketing conference. You don't understand that side of the house. So vendors asking marketers or asking dealers, hey, what would you like to see different? They're not equipped to answer that question. Their job is to sell cars. So I felt like
in automotive, I'm shocked to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm not shocked.
Yeah. Like, you tell me what to do. Like, I'll give you incent. Like, you should have access to all my stuff already and know what the manufacturer's pushing.
It was very eye-opening. And then everyone uses the same terminologies, but they just become buzzwords. If someone says, oh, in my prior career, I did SEO, that worries me. I go, well, what do you mean you did SEO? Like, could you report anything that you did? Could you quantify anything that you did? That's not to knock what they were doing, but it just might tell you that someone goes, oh, hey, as long as you're saying the buzzwords, keyword and content, then people will think you did SEO. Mm-hmm. It's like, but that's not helpful. And that's not a knock on the person doing it. It's just a knock on the way that we've made buzzwords seem like it's the job description.
Right now. Geo is the new SEO.
Geo, yeah.
We're not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. So with your past working with the major brands and the OEMs, you've got a more well-rounded perspective on this, and you can push back sometimes on well-meaning suggestions. When does that happen? Why does it happen? What's something you can share about that?
It happens a lot. The different brands have different programs, so it's not one size fits all. But for example, GM will send us, when I say that I get, 10 to 12 a quarter direct mail requests of these, cardholder drops and supplier mail drops, and there's a digital component to it. And, they basically spell it out, and you guys may not see them, but the emails that come through that basically say, please reply approval and we'll get it going. They make it so easy. And then the worst words to be combined and put into an industry are turnkey. Hey guys, it's turnkey. So that's the selling point. So for example, if
a trick word, that's code word for
it's slippery and easy.
It is slippery and easy, but it also, to me, has kind of become the crutch that most vendors are using as a sales pitch. So it's not, here's why, we might be a little bit more expensive, but it's worth it. It's basically, hey, it's easy, so you should do it. And I didn't feel like anybody let me off the hook when I was trying to wholesale Chrysler 200s to a dealer in Northern Michigan. And I appreciate that they didn't, because now I can look back and go, I'm not going to let anybody off the hook either. If you can make sense of it, I'm okay paying for it. But turnkey is not the answer. But to answer your question, Matthew, I'm sorry I go on a tangent. It depends on the brand. For some of the Stellantis stores, when we get an email that says, hey, here are some, business center funds that are going to be used for the dealership. Here are the options with what you can use. It's not money that is available to us. Like, if we don't use it, we don't get it. It's basically co-op dollars that they have that they're willing to spend on our behalf. And what I know behind the scenes is that they'll say, hey, you've got $4,000 of, basically funds available to a store, whatever the number is. It's calculated differently based on sales, but there's a huge chunk of that going to the vendor. And I'm not, Andrew, I'm sorry. I know it sounds like I'm making some of the vendors out to be a bad guy.
Yeah,
really
beat up on Andrew, not me. That's fine.
But I struggle because it's an IV drip for them, and it makes it easy for them to go, well, we know we're going to have these at bats all month, so why do I have to work extra hard for it? Doesn't mean they don't have the right platform for it, but it does mean there's a fee structure. And anybody on an OEM program knows that there's going to be a profit center in some capacity for the business center, for the brand, and then obviously the vendor has to make a little bit of money. So by the time that we look at that dollar amount, we know it's actually a lot smaller. So if someone sold you on a they said, hey, you can use your funds towards video, and you say, great, we'll do OTT on the Ram 1500. It'll be awesome. And you think that budget's $5,000 or $4,000. And then by the time that you realize that's been sliced, the actual money going to OTT is very little, and it's inconsequential in the grand scheme of things with what they're doing. You also know that they have to build a message for hundreds of dealerships that are doing it, right? So again, it was turnkey. When I was selling these programs, it was easy. I'd say, hey, they're going to put OEM approved content across all these major channels. It's going to be great. Well, they're not making a different ad or spot for hundreds of dealerships. So you lose a little bit of personality there, which I think 100%. Is a problem.
Everything's the same.
Yeah. So I used to say, if you could go to a dealership in Oregon or a dealership in Florida and find very similar ads, obviously there's going to be nuances based on the market, but for the most part, it wasn't different. And again, I understand for the average store who doesn't have a robust marketing plan or a marketing director or somebody who can help advise them, that might be a godsend. Mm-hmm. But we're lying to ourselves if we think that that budget that we're looking at to approve is actually all going to the thing. So we would say, well, let's pick something that maybe has a little bit that can do a lot more with a little bit less. So say maybe we think, hey, let's do a PMAX campaign instead of OTT. We think we can do more with less on PMAX. So let's move the money there and navigating those programs that way. Because again, otherwise you're going to say, hey, it's just as easy as enrolling in this form and it's turnkey. So you don't have to worry about a thing. And then Andrew goes to bed at night and feels great about himself. I've just learned to pick those programs apart a little bit. And other times it's data driven. They'll ask us for information or they want to link up to our DMS. And, we're just a lot more gun shy about that. We're not prepared to just let anyone have access to what they need. So most times we ask them for what they need specifically. And if we deem any of that information not important, we've stripped it and we'll send them a file. So we know that it's capped at what they can take. And I mean, I'm sure, we're not on anyone's Christmas list, but it does feel safer and a little bit more intentional with how we've chosen to do things in the last couple of years here at Superior.
Were you able to build out like a team of marketers with you?
Kind of a yes and no. So when I came here, our team was, it was really just two people. It was a woman that we have that is still works with us, and she had more of a background in traditional media. And we had a gentleman who's a graphic designer. And they both, born out of just the group growing and COVID, had to learn how to do OTT and pre-roll and paid social and make all the graphics and do all the production. And, they just kind of became like their own little agency of sorts. But that, after a while, gets really hard. They hired a small team of social media coordinators who were out at the dealerships in each campus, and they're posting regular content, all organic. Again, anything paid is coming through our house, but the social media coordinators would be on the campuses doing their thing.
That's
but
sweet.
even then, it got to be. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's awesome. Like some people, it's like they have a huge marketing team. Some people, it's like it's just me and a bunch of contractors and vendors. And I don't know what the right recipe is, but
yeah, I'm wrestling with that now, if I'm being honest with you, because if you're looking at it purely from a headcount standpoint, every time you get a store, you're not going to hire a social media coordinator. Now, if there's 3 to 4 stores on one campus and they can be there all day, that's fine. You're going to have plenty of jobs to do to get content for 4 stores on a regular basis. Say we open a store in Memphis and it's just 1 point. Does it warrant having a full-time social media coordinator there? Probably not. So we're going to test our luck getting content from the store. If we're out there visiting, we try to get as many photos as possible. We try to do employee spotlights and customer delivery photos. And then we have the stuff that we've created for, paid social. So the biggest chunk of my team is social media coordinators, but that's just because we've got the 16 stores. we did add a graphic designer. So now we have 2 graphic designers, which has been helpful because we process all of the tier 3 content through our house. So it's easy for us to get the offers from the stores through a system that we created. And then we take those and we create all the media that we're going to push for the month. And it's all built in house and pushed out. So especially if someone said, hey, we wanted to work with you guys on this, sponsorship, do you have a 15-second spot we can use? Like, yep. And it's this month's offers with the creative that we did with the drone footage from our dealership. So it looks and feels like Superior. But yeah, it's the team aspect of it's difficult because what happens in 6 more months if it's 2 or 3 more stores, and then in 2 years or 5 years if it's 3 or 4 more stores, and all of a sudden,
Tyler, those are the good problems to have.
They're great problems to have, but without a crystal ball, it's difficult to know where you need to grow the team. I mean, I'm looking at it from an efficiency standpoint. How far can you push with what you have without making it that everybody is just redlining? And I don't want to get to the point where there's redlining, because then you miss the opportunity for folks to do that 10% extra, that you're just the little deposits. Every time a store calls and goes, oh my God, I need help. Or, hey, I realized I made a mistake. Or, hey, I have a really good idea and it's Friday at 4:30. And to have a team that has a little bit of that gas left in the tank.
Yeah, you got to have that bandwidth open for them. We try to do that here at TradePending. I think Andrew just runs his people into the ground, but maybe he can speak to that.
No, I feel like what Tyler's built, what you're building, and the headwinds and headaches that you have are like so similar to what I'm doing. Just building a marketing firm, really focused on social with Dealer OMG, and the problems of getting like new stores are great problems. So you're growing. Sounds terrible. There's still problems. There's still problems. It's like, okay, we need to get their Facebook admin access. We need to get their X handle and their Instagram account. We need to get their TikTok. We need to get their analytics. Can we get their historical data? Can we tap into their CRM? And by the way, that's all marketing, maybe. Oh, I didn't know that. That's okay. Well, we'll figure that out.
Yeah. And the hard part is if you don't have relationships, partnerships, so to speak, with your vendors, some of those answers are really hard to get. I mean, we've been fortunate that we've had folks that were willing to, or were able to, not willing. I mean, they weren't not willing, but they were able to get us the access we needed and hand over some of these accounts. But then, just like the consulting days, you walk into a store and go, hey, who's got control of analytics? And everyone kind of looks at each other and goes, I don't know. And then you're going to call the agency that I just canned and say, hey, I'm sorry, can I have access? And they're going, oh, I'm sorry, I don't work for you anymore. So no. And they should, but they don't. And I experienced that back in the manufacturer days when we would make a change in vendors with some of these turnkey providers. They would say, no, I'm not giving you access to anything, or they would just stop responding. So I think that's another point that we could harp on, is making sure that the people that you surround yourself with are invested in the same strategy that you are. And I'm very proud of that. And that's one of the things that I think I took through as a strength, was knowing that I had good people around me, and that when the time was right to make decisions, I trusted the folks that I could get on the phone to say, yeah, we think that's a good call. And if we're going to do it, we're going to do everything we can to make it work. So, TradePending is a good partner of ours, and we've talked about it briefly, but Reunion Marketing, they've been a great partner of ours. Forward thinkers that are organized and willing to help, and putting the right people in those chairs has made a huge difference for us.
Let me ask you a question. It's one of the eternal debates of marketing. How do you balance brand awareness marketing spend versus we need leads and we need to sell cars right now spend?
I am looking at your hand balance. I'm more focused on the brand awareness component of it, because I don't know if it's popular opinion, but I think we have to look back and say marketers get a bad rap when things go bad. They don't always get credit when things go well. And I went, well, then I don't care. I mean, I care how we perform, but I'm not going to hang my hat on a good day or a bad day. If we sold 15 new cars at a Ford over the weekend, I'm not going to go, that was marketing, because then
that's
if
really
they
grown up of you, I
thank
like
you.
it. Yeah.
But if they hit a goose egg on Tuesday, I'm not going to go, hey guys, I'm sorry, that's on me. That would get exhausting. And I finally said, I think putting that ownership on the shoulders of the people that, make these decisions is not fair to them. And it's not fair to the stores, because you're taking credit away from someone who may have a better process than somebody else. So again, I'm not saying that it's not important that we track leads and things like that, but gosh, we're just a day and age where everybody's trying to sell you lead volume, and it's always deeper and more impactful. And at the end of the day, I think we just need to make sure that we're represented in all the places where people can convert, let's give them the opportunity to convert, and then let's double down on brand awareness so they know who we are, they know we exist. And in the moment where they're starting to make that purchase, they've at least given us an opportunity. So, I mean, maybe I just look at it a little bit backwards, but I would say that it's made life a lot less stressful because you can be excited and you can get down, but you're not going to hinge your success on one good day or one bad day. Instead, make sure you know they've got the opportunity to convert, be there, and then work on just making sure that everybody under the sun knows who you are and where they can buy a car.
But Tyler, I like the sound of like the ownership and the fingerprints that you have on the success of the dealership as a whole, not just like the marketing, because it can be like some marketing to say, hey, if business is great, it's because marketing's killing it.
Right.
If it's slow, it's because of the sales guys. We got them the
100%.
leads, and you were telling me where to do some of the marketing. I didn't want to do that and do it the opposite way, where your hands are off the tough stuff, but they're very in when it's easy. When sales are good, it's easy to say that's marketing.
Yeah.
I admire that. Is there a world ever where you think the manufacturer can co-op more grassroots style marketing at like sponsoring the T-ball teams and getting the signage at the middle schools and things like that?
There are manufacturers where I can do that. Okay. What I love more of an account, so to speak, where, you say, hey, there's a difference in some of the stuff that we want to do down here, but then there's a layer of stuff up here that we think is important. I would love for the manufacturers to get more involved, but I've also lived in the world where you realize there are so many dealers. It would be almost impossible to determine whose thing is important enough to do and not do. And that's not to say that a store that sells 3 or 4 new cars a month in, a remote part of Northern Michigan is less important in sponsoring their high school's homecoming than the guy in Metro Detroit. They're both going to tell you that, there'll be 10,000 people at one game and there'll be 200 people at the other game. And you're going to go, well, I don't know which one's more important. To one of those stores, that might mean everything. That might mean everyone in that town knows exactly who's there and they can't wait to shake their hands. And it might be a blip on the radar for the other one. But it's like deciding who your favorite kid is. I mean, if you open it up, I think you're going to find that it's going to get really tricky to try and pick and choose. But I do think it's a path they should be exploring, because I do think it would be great for the brand as well to say, hey, regionally, we know that there's going to be some great chances to get product out there. And again, for the OEMs that have product lineups that we should be proud of promoting, they need to be doing what they can to push. But, again, simultaneously, we're dealing with, a pandemic and inventory issues, and then, a tariff. And then, you just kind of go down the line and it's like, well, where is that in the pecking order in the grand scheme of things? And it seems like as soon as we get our feet under us, it's, something gets pushed back down. So for now, they'll lay on our shoulders, and we're happy to do it.
What's the coolest manufacturer to work with right now as far as giving you flexibility and ability to?
Mazda.
Okay.
Mazda.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah. They're the easiest to work with. They've got the best portal, I think, to work through. The submission process, the pre-approval process for me seems pretty easy. They have a lot more control through their program, a lot of the DigAd stuff. But when you choose to sponsor something, it's pretty awesome. They don't, you have to follow the rules, but it's not like, someone calls me and says, hey, we'd like to do something. And I think, oh, that sounds fun. I'm not worried that Mazda is going to say no, because I know that they're cool with the product placement, the correct logo, the right mention of the name. And they've got an awesome product lineup. So it makes it easy. I mean, if I was going to support, a high school basketball team, I know there's probably 100 Mazdas in that parking lot. If I wanted to support, aspiring young professionals working their way up through Walmart, they've got these great third row options. If you want something that's more environmentally friendly, we've got options for that. So I think Mazda right now is probably the one that's the most fun to work with. And then Mercedes has been interesting lately as well. Mercedes has a slightly different program where there's a lot less rules on what you can do. They basically provide you with the resources, and you choose to do what you want, but just a slightly harder brand to do fun things with, because it's kind of a niche customer at times.
I thought you were going to say it's because they were a German-based company, but
no. I will say we just sponsored the World Championship barbecue contest in Memphis, which doesn't feel like a on brand for Mercedes-Benz, but again, in that community with new ownership, it's a huge opportunity for us. And so it was kind of fun to do something a little bit outside of the wheelhouse of what we maybe had done in the past with Mercedes. But they're fun to do test drive events with, Cars and Coffee, kind of that stuff. Car geeks love that brand, and if you've got some eye candy in the product lineup, it's fun to get people out because they all love cracking the doors and taking a peek, even if it's all something we all dream of driving, but probably never will.
So, different question for you. If you had to take a guess, how many tools are in your marketing tech stack?
Oh gosh, what do you mean? Okay, so can you give me an example of a tool that I want to make sure
Yeah, you could go. I'll throw some out, Andrew. You can throw some in as well. So, of course, you're going to think about like TradePending. You got the payments product.
That's the first one that came to my mind.
Yeah, of course, for most people. But then you got website. Maybe you're doing something for equity mining, for chat, and then you layer on all the stuff like, well, think of like I'm logging into like Google Ads and Tag Manager, and like you start to take that whole ecosystem into account.
Well, it's website provider. It's DMS. There's so many.
10 to 13. And I will say, maybe that number's high for us because there are ways to get that down. If you wanted to say, you could have a, virtual retailing or online retailing product through Roadster, and you could have a trade tool through TradePending, or you could do them both through TradePending. So we have chosen to go down a route where I think the mix is important, not only just because of the partnerships, but I like to call it the checks and balances. So I try not to give any one vendor all of the keys to a specific tool. So, I want my website provider to be different from my, paid search and SEO, who I want different to be than trade, and I want it to be different than chat. So yes, in theory, could you go to a Dealer Inspire or a dealer.com or Dealer On and say, hey, I'd love you to be all of my products, and they would say gladly, and it's one neck to choke. It's easy to have those conversations. It's turnkey. But then if there's a mistake, it's a little bit harder to identify when there's a problem. So I like that right now, when I want to get something done, I can look through that 10 to 15, that list of tools, and I know that everybody has to work together. And the ones that are willing to do that and play in the sandbox have ultimately proven to me that they're the partners you want on that team. No one pushes back and says, well, it's not my problem. I might CC TradePending support, Dealer Inspire support, and Reunion Marketing's team and say, guys, I'm not totally sure what happened here. I'm not sure who controls this piece of the pie. It might be a color, it might be placement, it might be just the script. Something is wrong. And everybody writes back and says, hey, I took a peek on my end and everything looks good. And then someone might say, hey, that's actually controlled by TradePending. And then their support team's done it in 10 minutes. And it's like, great, we're done. And
I was hoping everyone would just start pointing fingers and blaming everybody else. But the situation you described is actually better.
No, but it's nice to, it's refreshing. You don't have time to fix problems one at a time. So sometimes you have to throw bulk things at the situation. And if everyone's working on their specific slice of the pie, I think it works really, really well. So, it's something we've taken across the group too. So when I got here, we had lots of cooks in the kitchen. We had 13 vendors doing 20 plus different services. And now it's down to 5. And those 5 have really proven to us that they're, again, conversion friendly, easy to work with. We think the price point is right. And some of them we go outside of the manufacturer programs for, and some of them conveniently are part of the program. Would I pay for TradePending outside of the manufacturer program? Of course. Is it a bonus if they're part of it? Yeah. But, we're not hinging our decision to do business with everybody just based off of how turnkey they are. And if it's easy on paper, I want people that want to play in that sandbox together.
Well, we can wind this down. Dude, Tyler, this has been amazing. And what's the most rewarding part of your job right now?
This is going to sound a little bit crazy, but this job in the last 2 years it's felt very entrepreneurial in nature, but without all the risk. So I feel like I've been given the opportunity to take an eraser to an easel with, a blueprint on it that they were looking to change. And when we say we want to try something new, we've had support to do it. When it hasn't worked, we've pivoted away from it. We've built a lot of strong relationships, and I think we're building a really strong future for the group. And it makes me really happy to feel like the next 37 years are going to be even better. You know, I keep joking with people that I'm not thinking about the next 5 or 6. I'm thinking about the next 37 years. Like I don't want to feel like we stalled. Marketing is not a cruise ship anymore. It's a speedboat, and we have to be comfortable with the fact that it's going to navigate and the waters are going to change. But at the end of the day, we've got the flexibility to do things differently. And that entrepreneurial type spirit where you get to organize budgets and negotiate deals and work with people. But at the end of the day, I don't have to write a paycheck and I don't have to pay employees and worry about, insurance and things like that. Like that's the sustainable growth for the future has been the most rewarding part. But because they've given me the flexibility to do it, and I appreciate that very much. That was the deal from the jump, and they've honored every bit of that. So super thankful, but excited. I mean, again, 37 years feels like a long time, but I'm sure it's going to come in a flash. So just buckle up.
Is that your 37 years or the dealership's 37 years or both?
Well, so it's funny. They went into, when I got here, they had been here for 37 years, and we actually are almost my literal birthday and their first year in business, first month, are only a couple days apart. So now I can conveniently say that every year that I celebrate a birthday, I know the auto group has celebrated another year, but
it is both. Yeah, that's great. I was thinking like, man, like Tyler's really, he's forward thinking. If he's thinking about when he's 74,
yeah,
I can't even think to like tomorrow half the time.
Yeah. I think we're all going to get stuck if we're thinking about tomorrow. Cause day to day, week to week, I mean, God, this industry will wear you out. As you guys know, I mean, it's just takes one big disruptor after the next, but it kind of feels like that's the constant now. And again, having that entrepreneurial type mind, it makes you feel like, you either change or you fall away. And I'm just not prepared for that, for the latter. I'd much rather be in the driver's seat with this thing going forward and continue to connect with people and build a brand that people are excited about. When a neighbor buys a car in your neighborhood and they can't wait to tell you about it because they bought from Superior. I mean, those are the little things where you're like, okay, we did it. Maybe that customer didn't know who we are, and now they do for something. Maybe it was a sponsorship. Maybe it was being my neighbor. Maybe it was just their shopping experience. They got so tired from a competitor or buying out of state that they decided to try something new. And when you can see that one person change their mind, that's going to mean one or two other people might give you a chance. And it's thrilling when you know that you're going to get a few extra opportunities.
I love it. Andrew, that seems like a great place to start to land this plane.
Let's do it. I love the new car at the neighborhood with the dealer plates on it. I think that's the coolest marketing. I love seeing a new car with dealer plates and seeing where they got it.
So
in the game.
That was the thing. I'm sorry, I'll do this all day if you guys let me. When I got here, we had every car was, other than the Highlines, was delivered with our drivesuperior.com group site. And I went there and I said, well, we don't do anything with the group site, but that's the plate that goes home with everybody, and half the people don't change it. So I said, well, why don't we focus on the group site and try to make that better, more conversion friendly? Let's get tools on there like chat and trade and virtual retailing, and see if we can't drum up some extra opportunities there. And so those are just little decisions that seem like super obvious, but it wasn't happening before I got here. And I'm thrilled to say that we're doing more with that now. And it's
hell yeah,
4,000 at bats every month. So why not?
I can hear the pride. I can hear the fingerprints you got on the marketing, and it feels good. Tyler, what's a way people can follow you? LinkedIn, or what's the best way?
Me specifically, or the auto group? I was going to say, cause I'm not as exciting on social media as I probably should be, but yeah, we've got accounts for every dealership. So, yeah, we're drivesuperior.com is the group site, but Superior Automotive Group on all social media handles. We're heaviest on Facebook and Instagram. We've got a couple pretty funny Twitter accounts out there. We've got a social coordinator or two that do a good job of keeping it light. But yeah, we're all over the place. But yeah, if you guys are ever interested in reaching out, I don't know if you can provide my email somewhere in this, but
be careful what you ask for.
Comments.
Yeah.
Hey, I had after ours, Matt, I had one guy reach out and I was thrilled. I couldn't believe it. I was like, yes. If one person writes you, it worked. So I was happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tyler. We appreciate it.
Loved it. And this is Matthew Davis, TradePending. I'm Andrew Street, dealer OMG. That is a conversation with the first of 100 marketers.
Thank you, guys.
Hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you did, please subscribe to the show. It helps us get out to more people like you. And if you know somebody, or you're somebody that's a sharp marketer in automotive,
please reach out to us. We'd love to feature you on the show. Reach out to Ashley at dealeromg.com.